Accountability is a word used a lot today. Accountability for yourself and accountability to the team or even your family. But how do we do it? How do we do accountability and how do we do it successfully? Health Explorer Neil Fellows here. If you want to get healthy and fit and stay healthy and fit and do it in a way that's unique and natural to you, please subscribe and hit the bell. In this video, I'm interviewing a fellow fitness enthusiast, Caspar Craven, who knows a thing or two about accountability from circumnavigating the globe with his wife and young family. So Caspar, we hear a lot these days about accountability and the need for people to be accountable for yourself. So let's start off with a definition. What is accountability?
Right, accountability, right? It's fundamentally, it's doing what you said you would do and someone holding you to account. As a former accountant, right? It's that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's the numbers, it's the sums. It's like, okay, how does it stack up? You said you do this. What have you actually done? That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. So accountability obviously is a good thing. Obviously, holding people to what they said they would do. But if we're not tracking anything, it can become sort of maybe problematic and we might not actually be sort of true to our word. So could you explain some ways that we could get some tracking in place?
Yeah, so it's hard, isn't it? Sort of staying on track with different things that we said we would do, because when we're in that sort of we all know it's like when we said we're going to go and get fit, we're going to go do exercise, and in the heat of that moment when we're like fired up by emotions, like I'm going to go and do all these things. New Year's resolutions are a great example of that, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we're going to go and make those things happen. But we don't always stay in that emotionally high state, that emotionally engaged state, because we're human beings, aren't we? So we do this, don't we? And we vary, and more distractions come in, and suddenly that cream cake is sounding and looking a lot more exciting than the promise to get down the gym and those sorts of things. So I think that's why it's really important to put in place the mechanisms when we're in that emotionally high place to make sure that we stay true to our intentions, because we have those thoughts and they're good thoughts at the time. So the question is, how do we make those stick? So, I mean, there's lots of different ways, isn't it? I mean, I personally use something, the habits tracker. So literally I have like a tick sheet and I have to sort of tick off all the different things every day that I said I'm going to go and do. And then I score myself every week on how well I'm doing with that. So I'm quite intense about it, actually, with making sure that I'm following those habits. And there's a brilliant book, actually, by Atul Gawande called The Checklist Manifesto. And the principle behind that is how can you be more effective by having checklists? It's a really simple idea, but he talks about how the transformation of sort of hospitals and financial services and airlines through the power of a checklist. And I think it's something really powerful for all of us, just to make sure that we're doing those different things. So checklists, and having an accountability partner. You make a promise to somebody else that you're going to go and do that. That's why trainers work, isn't it? Because you make a time commitment. I will see you at 5 o'clock. I don't really want to, but once you've made that commitment, then it gets harder to back out of that.
Yeah, that's really interesting hearing you say you keep a tick sheet, because I do exactly the same. And I learned this because from some very successful people who were doing exactly the same thing. And it makes sense. Because I think if you set a goal, if you're going to achieve that goal, you've got to have some habits in place. And if you've got habits in place, well, then you need to track the habits to make sure you're actually doing them, don't you? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, like, I don't feel like it today. It's like, all right then. So it's not going to happen. I mean, it's funny. One of the little hacks that I have. I do a good amount of exercise, do my hill sprints and stuff like that. So the little hack that I have just to nudge myself is before I go to bed, when I'm going to do the hill sprints the following day, is like get all my kit out, and so it's there. So when I wake up, it's the first thing that I see. Yeah. And therefore I'm more likely to do it. Whereas if I got to go and dig for it, then I find I'm less likely to do it. So it's just trying to find those little things to nudge you forward, isn't it?
That is so true, actually, because I found that the back end of the winter, when I began running again, you've got to get all your gear out, and there's extra layers of clothing, isn't there, in the winter that you want to put on. And by the time
Yeah.
you've got everything on and you've got out the door, 15 minutes can have gone by the time you've gone here and you've gone there and you've gone somewhere else. So being organized. Yeah.
It's amazing when you don't want to do something, how many distractions, and that thing on Instagram or BBC News or whatever that wasn't really that interesting, and suddenly you find yourself down the rabbit hole, and time's gone, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I get that. So what would be some of the principles of accountability?
So I think that it's the regularity of that. So it's, it's like with the tick charts, right? What's the frequency with which we're going to do this? Daily, weekly? So making sure you've got a regular routine. I'm a big fan of visibility. So my habits chart is on the fridge in the kitchen. So whenever I go and open the fridge, it's like, it's that mid-afternoon thing, right? It's like, and suddenly you're hitting a bit of a sugar low, and you're going to go sort of hunting for a little bit of sugar somewhere. I'm sure no one else has done this. And you open the fridge door, and suddenly it's like, oh, hang on a second, it's there, isn't it? So what was the Daniel Kahneman phrase from his book, Thinking Fast and Slow? What you see is all there is.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I have gone through the thought process and decide is important, I will put that there somewhere so it's visible in probably the places where I'm going to experience the weakness the most. So the regularity, the visibility. I think also having a conversation around it. So again, I create a family conversation around this, and not everyone engages with it. But the more you talk about this stuff, the more you keep it front of mind, the more likely I think you are to do that. And also, accountability partners, right? Having someone who will hold your toes to the fire. It's like, you put on a couple of pounds, haven't you? Why don't you get down the gym again? It's like that sort of stuff. So
there's nothing like one of your children to know what your goals are, to keep you accountable and constantly remind you, because they can be relentless, can't they?
Well, so your kids, because it's the reverse of parenting, isn't it? They loved what I experienced. My kids love to try and parent me and tell me, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. So give them an inch and they'll take a mile. So tell them the things you want to do, and they will tell you. It's like, Dad, you're not eating right. And it's like, you're not eating all the right things. You shouldn't be eating that.
Yeah, you said sugar was bad for you. What are you doing? Yeah, exactly. That. So you've written a couple of books. Would you share with us a story, maybe from one of them, that relates to accountability or setting big goals and maybe then being accountable?
Yeah. So the two books, Where the Magic Happens and Be More Human. So look, where's the best story to go with this? I think probably the best story comes from back in 2009. My wife and I set ourselves the insane idea that we're going to go and sail around the world without having the money to do it, and without my wife being able to sail and being seasick and all those sorts of things. We gave ourselves 5 years to make that stuff happen. And what was really interesting is the first 2 years of that 5-year period, I would say we relied on a delusional approach to try and get it. It's like, that thing, it's like, if I just keep saying we want to go and do this enough, then eventually it will happen. Yeah. And 2 years down the line, had anything happened? No, we just talked about lots of lofty things. And because we put that line in the sand saying 1st of August 2014, we're going to go and do this. Thinking, no, rather than being 5 years, it was now getting closer and closer. It's 3 years away. And when that was getting closer, it was like, oh, okay, so we do actually need to do something about this. So we then developed the habit of sitting down on a Sunday morning. We get up, it's going to sound insane. We used to get up sort of 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning when the kids were asleep. That was the crucial bit. So we get on with stuff. And we would hold ourselves to account. What are we going to do this week to move ourselves forward? And it was the mutual accountability, because we had a huge amount of stuff to do to build the businesses, to figure out how do we be safe and all those sorts of things. So it was a habitual routine of how we're going to figure this out together. So basically it was our sort of our team thing every week. So I know 5 a.m. on a Sunday will scare a few people off, but it worked for us.
But it's one of those things, isn't it? 5 a.m. is an unusual time, and because it's unusual, it almost like works because of that, because it's not in your usual day where it could get moved. Something else could encroach on it. You're getting up with an intent to put it in place and do it.
So you're right. So what sits behind that for me as well? If you want extraordinary results, whatever that extraordinary is to you, you can't do it through ordinary means. You've got to be extraordinary things, and it's going beyond. So we try to do that. Sit down and sort of after an evening meal with the kids around us at like 7:30 in the evening and try and do it. No, it's not working. There's so many different distractions. It's like clear focus time. Right, we've made the commitment. We're going to get up. Bang, we're going to get on with this.
Yeah.
So.
It works. Yeah. So I'm currently talking to Caspar Craven about accountability for yourself. And if you're finding what Caspar's saying here useful and helpful, please do give us a thumbs up, because it really does help the channel. I like that accountability for yourself, Caspar, can cover sort of many aspects of life. What we say we're going to eat, how we're going to spend our time, how much money we're going to spend, tasks like managing our finances, balancing our life. And I know that you're keen on your fitness as well. How have you applied accountability to yourself into your fitness?
Yeah, so the various ways. And actually, going back in time in the story, it was one of the things that I had to transform from being someone who, liked a drink or two, and was fairly liberal with the curries and all those sorts of things, and therefore fitness was not at the top of the tree. But as I realized that actually, in order to go and achieve our plans, I had to get myself in the best shape possible, give myself the energy to go and do that. So my first part of that was actually just sort of saying, there's a whole bunch of stuff to learn around health and fitness. I haven't got the time or the capacity to learn what I need to do around this. So literally, I got a fitness trainer in, and I was training with her 3-4 times a week, and she gave me the diet. This is what you have to eat. This is the exercise you have to do. And I just followed that religiously because I didn't have the time to do anything else with that. And when I did that, I lost a couple of stone, got in the best shape of my life, unsurprisingly, because someone else is doing that. And then, since I've got a lot of those different things buttoned down, since then, I kind of, once you start doing a habit for so long, no one needs to tell you to do it. And that's an interesting thing about the accountability and habits. No one needs to tell me to go and do hill sprints now. So I've done hill sprints Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, 4 days this week. And I get up at 6 in the morning to go and do that. And actually, because I've done it so much, it's just like it's a routine thing now. It's that thing of creating the habits. And so now I just need a tiny little nudge. So actually, I've been trialing an app on my phone called Humanity. And basically, it tells you out of 100 how you're doing every day. And I know that if I go and do my sprints first of all, then I'm sort of up over 70% straight away for the day. So it's just little nudges like that. But so the more you ingrain it, I think the easier it becomes to do that. But also it sits on my habits chart as well, and I have to tick that off 5 times a week. So just little things you build into your life. So
when it comes to parenting, especially when you were circumnavigating the globe, how did you use sort of accountability to yourself in that kind of scenario?
Yeah, no, that was harder for sure, because on a boat, 24 hours a day, you've got a routine going around the clock. So basically, you're on watch for 4 hours, you're off watch for 4 hours, and so there's a whole time dictated by what you've got to do in the meal times and the homeschooling. And so on, and maintaining the boat. So actually, the nature of our environment necessitated that we had quite a tight set of routines for how we did things. So we didn't actually have to, in one sense, think too hard about that, because the situation forced itself upon us. Certain things, it's not like you can go for a run when you're in the middle of the ocean, right? So we did a few circuits and stuff like that. You sort of lean across the cockpit, you're doing some dips and some press ups and so on. But pretty much, the situation dictated the habits and the routines of who's doing what and when are they doing it, because the environment is changing the whole time, the weather routines and that sort of stuff. So it was a situation-driven accountability, I would say.
Cool. Based on what we've discussed, I mean, I always like to leave an interview with somebody with something that we can take the useful information you've given us and actually just make it practical, just with one thing, a first step. So based on what we've talked about today, what would that be?
So I would say that it's so easy to be overwhelmed with a whole wealth of different information and ideas because, it's YouTube, books, it's all around us, isn't it? I'd say the first piece of useful thing around accountability is a bit of introspection and asking yourself, rather than just taking, all these different ideas from other people, asking yourself, what's the single most important thing that you could do for yourself over the next week, fortnight, month? And really think about that. Is it you want to exercise more? Is it you want to learn more? Is it you want to spend more time talking to your partner? Is it more time with the kids? Whatever it is, right? Spend time in introspection. Don't just take it from what other people do. Think about what's important to you. And then, write it down and stick it somewhere visible and go and do it, right? But start off with that, grapple with it. Grapple with what's the most important thing. Really take the time to stare at a blank sheet of paper and think about what would help you most. That's where I start.
Thank you, Caspar. Fascinating talking to you. Thanks for joining us today. Each week, I ask our experts to leave us with a challenge. It's just an idea. It's something that you can try. And if you like it, stick with it. If you don't like it, it doesn't work for you, throw it out and look for something that does. I'll be taking this week's challenge. You can see my findings from this challenge in our challenge roundup video, which is a monthly summary covering all of the challenges our experts have shared. To get that video and all of our latest health and wellness uploads, including interviews and reviews, subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified whenever we post. And if this channel can help your friends and family, please share it with them too. If you want to get proactive with your health, Total Wellness Club are developing health quests over at questly.life. Join while we're developing the site and get access to health quests that immediately personalise your health. You'll get to identify which of 10 critical health categories need your attention. You'll be able to track your progress and you'll be able to help us develop the platform too. I'll put a link in the description and I'll see you in the next video.